Hello and welcome to this video about how to embed H5P content into your Moodle site. A few months ago I was at the Moodle conference in London and I was lucky enough to do a presentation about Bootstrap and H5P. And I think it's fair to say that H5P has kind of revolutionised e-learning to some extent. And that it's now very easy to create interactive content and resources and to share them with your students and ask them to engage with them and record their scores and their results and offer just a more dynamic learning experience. I think the other key thing is that it's also free and open source, so the community are contributing towards it. And it's pretty easy to author. You don't need a degree in e-learning to understand how you could put some of these activities together. And after my presentation, a guy called Baz Harklink came up to me and told me that he'd been doing lots of work with H5P too. And one of the things that I had mentioned was the ability to try and embed H5P content directly into your Moodle site. And he had said that he had come up with a solution. So I have to first of all say a big thank you to Baz and the work he's doing with Avetica because he's been able to share some code with me and some ideas that's really helped me understand how embedding H5P can work. So I guess the important thing to be aware of is that what we're going to show you is a bit of a hack. It's not official yet, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it will become a sort of stable part of the Moodle environment. But it's what we've done, and the hack that works is pretty solid. So what I'm going to show you is a couple of different ways on how to embed H5P. I'm going to use Moodle 3.3 for this. But I'm going to show you, in case you're not on 3.3, I'm going to show you a way that you can do it without a specific 3.3 feature. And hopefully it should be pretty obvious. Now there are a couple of ways in which you can embed the content, and one of the ways is by using an Atto text editor plugin, which has been specifically built for H5P. And you can download that in the link below in the comments. And you need to install that into your Moodle site. If you don't know how to do that, then you need to talk to an administrator who can help you to do that. But once you've done that, that's going to give you an icon in your text editor, which is going to make embedding the H5P content very easy. And then the dream is that you're going to be able to create something that looks like this. So we have the Moodle text, a Moodle section, and an H5P activity embedded directly into the course. How do we do that? Let's have a look. Okay, so I've got a blank course and I'm in editing mode. The only thing I've done so far is renamed one of these sections and added a label of text. Now before we build the content, let's just go back to our plugins and our admin and just check a couple of things. So first of all, I've got H5P installed. We want the H5P Moodle plugin because if we build it on the H5P site, which you can do, and you embed it direct from the H5P site, that won't record any grades or scores into the gradebook. It doesn't know where to place the information. So having the H5P plugin is fantastic, and it's just like building on the H5P website, but directly into your Moodle site. Just something to add, if you have third-party people that you want to build content for you, and maybe they're not very Moodle proficient, you can still get them to build it in H5P. They download the file and then they pass it on to you, and then you can simply upload it into your H5P activity, and there it is. So people can build content outside of the Moodle site. So the other thing we're going to look for as well, let's do a quick search for Atto. Let's do a quick search for H5P instead, which should be here. There it is. So this is the text editor. Sorry, this is the Atto text editor plugin, which is going to enable us to embed an H5P activity directly into the course. So it's just important to make sure you've got those things installed. And like I said, if you don't know how to install the H5P plugins, I'm not going to show you how to do that now. You may need to talk to an administrator to do that. Okay, we'll come back to that bit in a bit. So back to our course. So what I'm going to do is create an H5P activity. So interactive content, add. I'm going to give it a name. So we're going to do some simple maths. And I'm going to click on the editor to select the content type. Notice there's the upload button there. So if you did ever want to upload from a different site or from the H5P site, that's where you do it. I'm just going to do a simple true or false question. And so my question is, 2 plus 2 equals 4. Okay, we know the answer is true. We can leave all the settings as it is for the minute. I'm just going to hide these because we don't need them. And then I'm going to save and return to course. Now that's how we would traditionally make an activity, and then the user would click on that and there they would see their activity. But notice this is different. There's no header, there's no title, there's no banner at the top, there's no footer at the bottom. All of the CSS has been stripped out, and this is the first thing that we want to do. And so if you go to your admin settings, you will then see that I have a load of CSS in my Lambda theme. So we use Lambda. Here it is. And what this CSS is doing is stripping out the breadcrumbs, the nav bar, the header, the footer. It's tweaking the actual page slightly with some margins. There's no background. We get rid of everything. Now it might be that your theme's CSS is slightly different, and again you may need to work with a developer or an administrator to do this. But all of this code is available in a Google Doc, which I'm sharing in the comments. So simply go and grab it and paste it into your CSS page in your theme. Let's have a look at it without it. So let's cut it. And then we refresh it. And what we see is what we would normally expect to see, our theme with the activity. And that can work perfectly well. If you want to just have a simple link, then keep it like that. But we don't want to just have a simple link, do we? We want to make it a bit more exciting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this maths quiz down to topic 4, and I'm going to hide this entire topic. Okay? And what I can then do is just rename it. So we'll call it H5P activities. And whilst this is hidden, we actually want to unhide it. I know that sounds daft, so we're going to make it available. And you can still do that feature on Moodle 3.1 and 2. These are stealth activities. You just don't see the bit of text. So you would move it to its own section and you would hide it and hide the section, but still show the activity. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a label. And this is where we need to get a very specific bit of code. Just bear with me 1 second and I'll be right back with that code. So this is the piece of HTML that Baz very kindly shared with me. And I'm just going to paste it in. So what do we see? Well, we see the iframe. And we see what we then want is the link that's going to take us directly to that activity that we've just created. So we can just copy and paste the link address, and we're going to paste that in there. And notice the ID. The ID is the key thing that you need to make sure is set. We're going to set the width to 100% and the height is at 665. Now that might be a bit big. You may need to tweak the pixels for this. That's something that you need to have a play with. Also notice there's some script at the end. So this is the script that it's calling from H5P to embed it into Moodle. I don't know what that does, but I know it helps. So this is how we do it without the Atto editor. And we can see our quiz is there, but it's got all the CSS around it. So we're going to need to go back to our admin settings and paste that back in. So we paste it back in. Let's save it. And then let's just tweak this again, and we should see that all of that CSS has disappeared. There we go. So we just have a blank or an empty, as it were, activity. We do still have the blocks, and we'll deal with that in a minute. So let's save our label, and let's return to the course. And there we can see our activity, but we've still got these blocks. Even in the editor here, you could hide them, or you could simply go to your activity and we want to configure the navigation block, and we're going to say on this page, no. And do the same for the admin block. Configure admin block on this page, no. And there you go, and you can see it's pretty stripped back activity. So let's go back to our section. Now we can see the embedded activity. And if we turn editing off, there it is. And it fits pretty well. Might be able to shrink the height down slightly. But what you could simply then do to continue the learning experience, if we turn editing back on again, because we're working in separate labels, this is what makes it so much easier, is that you could duplicate the top one and stick the activity in between the two text boxes. And then turn editing off again. Now that looks pretty good, I think. So that's a way to embed content by using the bit of code. But instead, let's now have a look at how you use the Atto plugin. So I'm going to make a different activity this time. So let's turn our editing on. I would love it if somebody could make a keyboard shortcut for turning editing on. It would make life so much easier. So we're going to go down to our maths quiz, and just for simplicity, I'm going to just simply duplicate it. And this time we're going to call it a maths presentation. And I'm going to edit the settings of this. And this time, instead of a true or false question, I'm going to choose the course presentation, which I think is just one of the most fantastic tools on H5P, and we use it a lot. It's incredibly useful. So this is not a tutorial on how to design the course presentation. So through the wonders of technology, we'll be back in a second when I've added some content. Okay, so here's my lesson. I have no idea why I've done it on maths. I've got no interest in maths whatsoever, but there you go. So we've got an introductory slide, and then we've got an activity, which is 2 quiz questions, and then we've got a video at the end about maths tricks. So I'm going to save that. So I'm going to save and display this time, and what we're going to see again is that we've got all the CSS removed, but the blocks are still there. So we need to configure the blocks. Now it might be that you never use the navigation block on your site whatsoever, and therefore it may be valid that you hide it permanently in the admin settings. I wouldn't probably advise that you do that with the administration block though, because you are going to need that. I don't know if there's a quicker and easier way just to simply hide the blocks, I'm not sure. So we've got our course presentation. Let's go back to our actual course. And this time we're going to do topic 2, why you should love maths. And I love this feature in 3.3 now where you can edit the titles here. It makes it so much quicker and easier. So we're going to add an activity. We're going to add a label. Okay, because we've already got our H5P resource down there. And this time, instead of having to get all the code and figure it all out, we're going to click on our little Atto editor, which has now appeared. And we've got an option. Do we want to embed the maths quiz or the maths presentation? And I'm going to embed the maths presentation. And voila, there it is. Now, it still seems to have a little bit of CSS in there, so we may need to go back and fix that. But if we go into the settings, we can see the link, the ID number, we can see the width. The one thing it misses is the height. And sometimes with the course presentation, we actually need it to be quite big. So I'm going to put in the height of 600 pixels. It's slightly different language, it's colons instead of equal signs, and that was a mistake I made the first time around and it wasn't working. But if we look at it now, we should see that it's an awful lot bigger, which is great. Okay, so let's save it and return to our course. And there's our course presentation, all fully functioning. Let's turn editing off and let's see what the size looks like. So there's section 1, there's section 2. No, it doesn't need any scrolling. Has a little bit of space at the bottom, so we may be able to shrink that down. But this is now completely interactive. So we know that Bruce Forsyth, God rest his soul, first invented maths in 1826. There we go. And then our second question is going to ask us, that age-old question, 6, surely. Oh, I got it wrong. It was 4. And then we'll see my summary. And all of that is going to get scored inside the gradebook. And that's why it's so important to build it in the Moodle plugin rather than build it on the H5P site. I can also watch a video as well. So I've embedded a video, why maths is fun. Hi everyone. So this course presentation tool is so useful for creating this almost interactive presentation that you can simply embed onto your course page. And down here we've got the hidden activities. So the student, when we turn, we are in editing off, it's because I'm in admin mode, sorry. If we go into student mode, we'll see that they're not there. We've got the topic 3, we've got the course presentation, so it's starting to look like a really involved course page. Now, just something to be aware of. I'm going to just close my Skype down so you don't see that. When you go into responsive mode, sometimes they respond better than others. And what tends to happen is we can see that the maths quiz is fine actually. There's very little gap at the bottom. But with the course presentation, it seems to produce quite a lot of white space underneath. And you can see when we really get into mobile mode, you get this huge amount of white space. We get a little bit of white space here. So you may need to play about with that if it's important to you. If you're using the Moodle mobile app or the desktop app, I'm pretty sure that H5P currently doesn't work in the app. But you can click on the link and it will take you to the website and it will work. Now don't forget that it looks quite small in mobile mode, but you have the expand to full size button, which should work. And so when you turn your phone portrait or landscape, you should get the full view. I don't know why that's not worked. Typical. But on phones, it does appear absolutely fine. There we go, we've got it back. So let's just quickly recap. We've got our label of text, a label here, which embeds the HTML code and takes the app ID number from, or the ID number, sorry, from this activity. In this instance, we've actually got a label, but we've used the Atto plugin to embed the H5P content, which I think works really, really well. But you've got to be in a position where you can install third-party plugins and be aware it is a bit of a hack. It's not an official H5P or Moodle plugin yet, but fingers crossed it will be soon. And then we've got a section down here which is completely hidden, but the activities are available, they're just not shown on the course. So that's how we can embed content and sort of make it really exciting. One thing I did want to just show you again, if we go to the admin for this, so I'm just going to go back to the CSS, and this is why this is so important. So if we cut all of that and we save it and then update our course page, what are we going to see? Basically the entire page embedded, or the entire site, sorry, embedded into the label. So it doesn't work quite so well. Well, as you can see, it clearly doesn't look as good. So it's really important that you work with that CSS to remove all of this background content. We'll just paste that back in. Okay, I think that's it. I'll repeat again, this is a bit of a hack, but it does work very, very well. And it works, one thing I will add, it works really, really well with different course formats. So one of the exciting course formats that's out at the moment is the buttons format, which I'm hoping I've got installed on here. Yeah. So why does it look so good in buttons? Well, what we're going to do, I don't know if you've used button format before, but it's definitely worth having a play with. We're going to put section 1 in group 1, and then we'll do 2 sections in that one. So we'll do introduction, and then we'll do module 1. And the layout's very different, but it works really, really well. So you can see it's basically its own section under the introduction. And then when we go to module 1, boom, we're presented straight away with this course presentation. And that to me has a lot of dynamic impact actually. Let's see if no, my full screen's not working. I need to check out why that is. I wonder if that's something wrong with the H5P button. It's typically never happened before. But you can see why the buttons course format looks really, really effective as well. So have a play with H5P. Try and get used to it. Even if you're not comfortable with the embedding side of it yet, have a go with just creating some activities and linking to them through your course page. And then if you feel that you've got the resources and maybe a development site where you can have a play with this, give it a go and see what you can come up with and share your results. Because I think H5P is a really exciting new addition to Moodle. And I love Moodle to bits, and happy 15th birthday, by the way, for yesterday. I hope you got my card and my cake. I love Moodle to bits, but I think we all know that it perhaps lacks that slight dynamic edge when it comes to embedding activities. So this is kind of like the dream for me. Anyway, please share, feedback, let us know your comments. Thank you, bye.